So somebody decided to do an unofficial stitch of one of my previous videos talking about how Democrats are always better for the economy than Republicans, which has historically been true. If you've seen that video, I think it's from about a week ago, and I put up several nonpartisan sources showing as such. But as usual, the Maga aren't ones to let facts get in the way of their feelings. And of course it went like most Maga videos, which was like, look, this is a graph with numbers! Trump is the best! So I guess I'll show you a little bit of it for context. And then Trump took office and it took a shit.
And it was taking a shit before he took office. If you look, it dropped from 3.1 to 2.3 between Q3 and Q4.
Okay, that's already far too much. He likes to make big flashy presentations like he's debunking liberals, and despite the fact that he will often put something up in the background, it usually has nothing to do with what he claims. For example, I pointed out that Biden had record back-to-back job reports and wage growth, whereas Donald Trump left office with fewer jobs than he started with. His response? It was the same old tired argument that Biden didn't create jobs, he just brought back COVID jobs. We've heard that one 100 times. However, you'll notice up here that it says October 2022, which means that all you're really saying is that you don't care that Trump lost all of these jobs, and that it took Biden a year and a half to get back those jobs that Trump lost in just a few months. Also, it says October 2022. Biden was still in office for 2 more years. And while Trump had very stagnant GDP numbers, followed by a massive tanking when he left office, Biden had positive GDP growth throughout his entire presidency, and even by the end, it was about the same as Trump's was the whole time he was in office. Yet apparently his claim is that Biden's economy was terrible because his GDP fluctuated by a percentage point, which somehow answers how Trump's is at negative 2.8 just 2 months into office. So your claim is that because Biden's GDP fluctuated by a percentage point after 4 consecutive years of growth, that somehow equals as to why Trump is in the hole just 2 months into his presidency. I hope you stretched before doing those gymnastics. Like I pointed out in my previous video, which you conveniently left out, was that Trump's GDP growth was down in 2020, and then immediately under Joe Biden, he recovered it. And then he went on to have positive growth the whole time, save for one little hiccup. In the first quarter of 2022, the economy contracted by 1.5 percentage points in the first quarter. But this was largely due to supply chain disruptions and inflation and ongoing COVID-19. And this makes sense because the summer of 2022 was when we hit our peak inflation. And as the Federal Reserve itself has even said, inflation takes 2 years to get to its peak, because it started in 2020 during COVID. Yet you just ignore all of Trump's bad GDP numbers and claim that because Biden's fluctuated by 1%, that he's the reason Trump is now 5 percentage points in the opposite direction. In fact, if you paid attention to any economists, they've been saying this for a long time. The OECD estimates that just a 10% increase on tariffs would result in a 0.3% decline of global GDP. Meanwhile, Trump's tariffs are currently at 25 and 50%, and he's claiming he's even going to take them higher. And every time he raises them, our GDP takes a hit. Yet no matter how many times Trump claims that Biden's economy was terrible, you guys will just keep eating it up despite the actual facts. And you didn't even bother to address the fact that the stock market is tanking under Trump, which Fortune magazine and The Economist have already directly said it is because of Trump's tariffs and his trade wars. It has nothing to do with Joe Biden. But my favorite part doesn't even have anything to do with any of this. My favorite part is that you made 2 videos about me, and the second one you said you were debunking in secession. I think you meant succession. In true MAGA fashion, you ironically misspelled what you were trying to say while laughing at me, apparently, and you wrote in secession on accident, which is what Republicans actually claim they're gonna do every time a Democrat wins the presidency. No matter how many flashy things you put up in the background or completely ignore all of my bipartisan sources, it's just not going to successfully deflect from the fact that you're head over heels in love with a con man who's robbing the country blind and taking everything you own, while simultaneously destroying our global reputation and starting trade wars with our allies. I would like to say that maybe you'll understand once he once again crashes the economy into the ground and you have no 401k left and you lose your house and you lose your job, and then bird flu wipes out half the population. But given your guys' blind fealty to a multiple-time felon who has declared bankruptcy 6 times, something tells me you guys are still never gonna get it.